Now the car is in the air, it's time to find two things. First is the fuel accumulator. So I have bought a fuel accumulator here, so I got to find something that looks like this. And secondly, I've got to find the fuel filter and replace that. So this is what the fuel filter looks like. Let's take a look and see what I can find. So that was pretty easy. Right here, that is the fuel filter. So that's pretty accessible and easy to find. Now, I couldn't find the fuel accumulator just looking around, so I went on the internet and had a look, and it turns out it is in this little section up in the chassis. That there is the fuel accumulator. So I've got to try and get up there, get that out, and the fuel hoses are looking pretty ratty as well, so best to replace the fuel hoses when I have that down. I get why I'm replacing some components. Fuel filter, I'm not going to get into the details of what a fuel filter does. But a fuel accumulator, what does that do? Accumulate fuel? To find out, I did a quick internet search. The fuel tank's at the front of the car. The accumulator is always located somewhere between the fuel tank and the fuel distributor. First, it provides a delay in the buildup of pressure when the car is starting, and that helps protect the internals of the fuel distributor. Secondly, it keeps the fuel pressure constant, and that also protects the fuel injector components. And when you combine those two, that reduces the noise in the fuel injection system from the fuel pump. Finally, it helps with hot starting issues. So what it does is it maintains pressure in the fuel system when the engine is turned off. This reduces the possibility of the fuel vaporizing because of heat coming from the engine. If you didn't have a fuel accumulator, your car would not start when hot, or at least it would take a long time to get fired up. Here we have the old filter, which is this one, and here we got the new filter. So now what I got to do is take all the fittings, like this piece here and this bracket, put it onto this, and then all these other pieces, they go with it as well. This is the new filter installed, so I am hoping it will not leak. But overall, at least it's in there, and I just really don't want it to leak, because then I'll have to take everything out again to tighten everything up again. So fingers crossed. So after quite a bit of time working on getting this old accumulator out, trying to use big long wrenches in that tight little spot meant it took a lot longer than it should have. And luckily, while this is quite tight, cleverly they have made these units so that there is actually a hex shape here that I can get one wrench on, and that'll allow me to pull against the other one to get this open. So it wasn't easy, but it worked. Okay, now put this onto the new one and get it all back in the car. I screwed up. Probably not a huge surprise for any of you that might know me. I got everything put in, I got the accumulator in there, bolted up, everything looked good, and then I remembered I had not replaced the fuel pipes that I said I'd replace earlier on. Now, it's not a huge issue, like I put an engine in backwards or something and got to redo the whole thing, but because everything's in that small, tiny little space, it's really hard to get all the bolts tightened, get everything in place. So, I just got to go, pull it all out again, replace the pipes, put it all back in again. So that's what I'm going to go do now. Here are the two pipes I took off the fuel accumulator, and here's why I replaced them. First of all, this is the main fuel pipe. I'll try and show you here, but it's pretty much getting brittle around the end, so I'm guessing this would have cracked eventually. So really good that I'm replacing it. It's under a lot of pressure going to fuel injection. The second one, this is a small return pipe, not as critical, but still, again, not sure if it'll show on the camera, but a few little cracks in there, cracks in the bends. So again, I'm gonna get a new one in there. I'll be replacing it with these, brand new fuel pipe. 200 PSI fuel injection pipe for the main line and just regular fuel pipe for the return. And a good tip I got is cut these with a blade. Don't cut them like I used to do with a hacksaw. Hacksaw chews it, blade gives a real nice clean cut. So that's what I'm gonna do now.
Oh, fudge. A fruitcake. I appear to have made a slight error. Oh well. But at least I've got nice silky hair. Either way, it's not that bad.
Beside each other. So I've done it again. Another stupid mistake. When I took that out, I had to leave one of the pipes connected to the accumulator so that I could unbolt it as it hung down here. But I did not put it back in the right sequence, so now I've got two bolts or two nuts right beside each other and I cannot get a wrench on them. So I've got to pull the whole thing out again, do it right, and put it back again. Such a... But this is why it's good to have somebody who knows they're doing with you. It actually saves hours and hours of time instead of idiots like me making dumb mistakes. So out it comes again. This is how I should have done it in the first place. Accumulator is just hanging by the return pipe. And now that I've got these pipes here, it's just much easier to connect. And I have space to get a wrench on and get the thing tightened properly. Whereas when it was up in the car, I had no room. And now all I need is my wrench. Get this tight. I suppose if I had the right size wrench.
Squirrel.
It's really important to get these tight now, because if I put the car back, or if I put everything back and drop the car down and it starts leaking, I'm going to be really upset if it was because I didn't tighten something properly. So now get this all back up again. It's going to be more difficult to connect the hard line to this because the hard line doesn't move. So now that I got the hose on it, it's going to make it much more difficult to move this around, move the accumulator around, but at least I'm able to get it tight. So next step, get it back up in there. Accumulator's in, new pipes are in, everything looks pretty good. Next step, turn on the ignition and check for fuel leaks. I don't want to have to edit the sound for this video. Any fuel leaks are going to result in a lot of editing. So let's get it done. Now to start it up, check for leaks. Is no sign of a leak? Yeah! I've come under the car just for one last check, just to check there's no leaks. And everything so far looks good. No leaks there. No leaks in there that I can see. I'm feeling pretty happy with myself right now. A short while ago, I had no idea what an accumulator was. And now, I have a new one in my car. I'm not out of the woods just yet. I need to get the car hot in order to make sure that everything is working as it should. And I can't do that because I've got a coolant leak. This coming week, I'm going to be getting that coolant leak fixed. I'm hoping it's not a cracked or broken radiator. That would be time consuming and expensive. Catch up with me this time next week and see what progress or lack of that I've made. But I'm hoping I'll have a lot of good news. See you next week.